Hey everyone, Joey Rusnak here with Lifeguard Authority, and I've gathered some awesome humans to join me to just chat a little bit about something that I think is really important for us to be talking about. And, the fall is typically like a conference season. I think we book the fall conferences because we get better rates on all of our venues. I don't know why we choose the fall, or maybe it's a low time, but I'm joined here today with some friends from the Canadian Swim School Alliance, Tiernan and Kerri, and Justin as well, Dr. Justin, as I think everyone calls him, who represents various organizations. So maybe what we'll do is we'll go quickly around, and if you want to just give a quick elevator pitch about your organization that you're representing and yourself. Justin, I think a lot of people are familiar with you, but maybe what we don't talk a lot about is some of the research arm of the work that you do quietly behind the scenes that informs a lot of the things that we see. So why don't you start us off?
Yeah, thank you so much, Joey. I'm Justin Sempsrott. I'm an ER doctor by day in the rural Western US, and I'm the co-founder of both Lifeguards Without Borders and the International Drowning Researchers Alliance. And I'm here today more kind of with the IDRA hat on. And the first World Conference on Drowning was in 2002, followed up in 2007. And now we do them every 2 years. And sometime about 10 years ago, myself and Dr. Behrens, Dr. Spillman, Katerina, Jonathan Weber were at a conference in Ireland between the world conferences on drowning, and over a bar napkin decided that we wanted to meet more frequently, but also have an opportunity to kind of work together and collaborate instead of compete, and sometimes in ways that our official government or university or non-governmental hats allow. And so it's really been wonderful to be able to work together, but also to be able to try and train and pass the baton on to the next generation who will carry on for us.
Awesome. Yeah, and I went to my first conference, IDRA. I know, depending on who you talk to, how they pronounce it. And I really liked it. It was definitely, I felt a little out of place not being a doctor at first, but quickly found my comfort when I was there because everyone was like super welcoming and lots of really, really interesting conversations. So I will link the information to that experience here as well. And I would encourage other people to consider getting other experiences and watching some of the communications and stuff that comes out from there. Tiernan and Kerri, who are you? Where'd you come from? What's up?
Well, it's nice. Thanks for having us, Joey. Nice to see you again, Justin. It's great that your organization was formed in a pub in Ireland. That's ironic. That's great. We're from the Canadian Swim School Alliance. Kerri and I both run swim schools. I run a swim school called Making Waves Swim School, and the Alliance formed over the course of the pandemic. We've been running now for quite a number of years, and we're about to launch our second conference this November. We're pretty excited about that, but we're also excited to talk about the topics that we're here to talk about today. And yeah, I think it's going to be a great chat.
Love that. I'm Kerri Russell. I own Russell Aquatic Swim School in the Greater Toronto Area. And I am also a board member on the Canadian Swim School Alliance. And my role really there has been arranging our conference speakers for our second annual conference. And I'm just really excited about that. I'm excited to be here. And we love our sustainability efforts in the CSSA. So we're very passionate about it.
Yeah, one of the really cool things, Justin, that happened in Canada through the pandemic, amongst all of the things that weren't so great, I think the pandemic ruined Fridays for everyone because all of our announcements came out on Fridays and then we had to pivot. But
yes,
the swim schools really, really they showed the ability to adapt, and they were so connected and 10 steps ahead of a lot of the public sector. And I think I've always had some relationships. I know Tiernan, we've known each other for a while, but the pandemic, I really perked up and was like, hey, we need to pay attention to what's going on over there because they're doing a lot of things right, and they were really progressive with a lot of stuff that was happening. And and then you form a conference, and I know we're going to talk a little bit more about this, but I noticed a big difference when a bunch of business owners throw together a conference and what that learning intention was behind it and stuff. So hats off to you. You had a really high bar that you set that you're going to have to meet this year. because it was pretty amazing last year. So and this is kind of like why I wanted to have this conversation, because a little bit of what happened when I was in Ireland is I'm like, okay, why are we in an aquatics format talking about climate change, and what the hell does this have anything to do with, the burden of drowning and like what we're about? So Justin, I'm hoping you can like talk through a little bit of that a little bit more about that. And then I go to this first conference with the swim school and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is all like coming together. We got to talk about this and try to inspire other conferences and organizations to think that way. So Justin, can you like walk us through maybe why that was a point of discussion at your organization's conference, and how it has anything to do with, the burden of drowning globally, and why we need to be talking and kind of being intentional about this topic?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Joey. And really for IDRA, our goal was to, one, kind of set a research agenda, but also to raise awareness and try and identify what we can do. And drowning, just like any other injury prevention, is driven by human behaviors. And if human behaviors are changing, then we need to be able to adapt to those human behaviors to modify prevention. And there were some lessons learned during the pandemic as well. Anytime there's a change in human behavior, people do different things. So with rising temperatures, we see more people recreating in aquatic spaces, both public and private, and that's increased risk and hazard. But also on a much more global and macro scale, it's driving human migration. And so as areas become uninhabitable, then people move to different areas, sometimes across waterways, but also with increase in natural disasters, storms, hurricanes, flooding, then we are seeing more and more. And there's just in Syria right now, just a massive flooding that is going on in urban areas that may or may not be prepared for it. We will see increased risk of drowning.
So you guys at the conference kind of, talked about this and identified that like our choices, as individuals, as organizations, as a society are, increasing the drowning rate. And if we don't make changes, forget the fact that the world might be screwed. That this directly relates, and what I liked about that is it's like we do so many other things that we want to build awareness to do it. And, how do we make some choices that have compounded effects? And, Tiernan, like I know we've talked a lot about, how this applies to aquatics, because, we teach a life skill and we do things that are important, but, the facilities we use to do it, like, are not very carbon friendly. So
No.
can you maybe like share a little bit? I know we chatted about this a little bit about like, what was some of the motivation for you as a business owner to even consider, some of the impacts of, the service you provide, and, why this started to become important to you as an organization, and then how that spilled into the Swim School Alliance?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, thanks, Justin, for the background there, but I think what's happened in the industry over time is that people are becoming more and more aware of this problem, right? And a lot of times we wait for government to jump in and give us direction on how we're going to solve this, but we're realizing that there's a lot of power in doing something as an individual organization and then inspiring others and show them the positive benefits of those actions. So, I'm making waves. We're tracking our carbon footprint, and we're looking at different ways to be able to reduce that. And I think as an association, to be able to recognize that this is an issue, and when we come together to create space, when we come together to be able to discuss this, because when people around you are speaking about the issue and it's coming up in conversation, then I think more and more people become aware, and they start to look at, what we can do in the space to make it better. So that's one of our goals, I think, at conferences, to be able to say, what can we do in terms of planning the conference to be able to reduce the carbon footprint of all of us coming together and meeting? And then how can we have conversations around what we can do inside of our organizations when we leave to be able to continue to affect change in that area? So that's one of the things that really kind of pumps our tires about it. We love the fact that we're leading in this space, and I think you saw that, Joey, last year at our conference with the fact that we think we were the first carbon zero aquatic conference, certainly in Canada, and probably across North America, and we plan on doing that again this year. So
are you seeing some of that, Justin? I know you speak quite a bit. That this is a focus. I mean, I think like a lot of places do the like, oh, get the slides online or something. I would agree, Tiernan, that this was the first conference experience I've been to where this was a priority and how they were doing it.
Yeah, I would say that what you all did with your conference is definitely leading the way. And in the conferences that I've attended, we're starting to see fewer big printed handouts. It's available as a PDF that everyone's looking at on their phone, and maybe some of the vendors, instead of putting in half a dozen plastic pens and knickknacks that maybe wind up in the hotel trash before, because it's not going to fit in my carry-on, that we're starting to see fewer and fewer of those. And some are offering carbon offsets or other smaller things at the participant level, but I'm not necessarily sure what may be going on at the organizational level with the conferences.
Well, and what's cool is you go to a conference where we're all coming together to learn and grow to impact our organizations. And if we get these experiences there, then how do I apply those? Like, okay, can I meet virtually where I don't need to meet in person? Can I do a virtual handbook? So some of those experiences, but I feel like, Kerri, Tiernan, I don't know if you want to speak. You guys stepped it up with some other things. So I'll show you the one that like was my first impression when I came in. They gave me my name tag, and it was seed paper, so I can like legit plant this paper and like stuff grows, flowers, I believe. And then, like a recycled like what are these called, lanyards or thing to hang it with. So like that was like my first experience, and it kind of just like perked my interest up, and then it just kind of kept rolling. So what were some of the other initiatives you guys implemented to be mindful of that?
Well, there's a lot of things. You want to go?
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
There's a lot of things that we're doing, but I think the first thing is like taking a look at it and saying this is a problem. So what can we do that at the conference, like the lanyards, like Justin said, like we don't need another plastic water bottle to bring home, or a rubber duck, right, to promote some company. So getting the sponsors in on it to say that we're not just handing out stuff in an events package when you register. The lanyards, the carbon offsetting, we're doing it at a venue in Toronto called Vantages. That's a LEED certified building. Any extra food that's not used during our events goes to support homeless communities in Toronto through the Good Shepherd. And so there's a number of things we're doing in that space to say, what can we do to not just reduce the carbon footprint, but if we can't avoid it, how are we going to offset that? And we've had some pretty big sponsors come on board, the people that make our Dectrons, our Ceresco units, our dehumidification air services. They've come on board as a sponsor, and they're helping us to calculate our carbon footprint and then have committed to offsetting that. So we're pretty excited.
Yeah, didn't you guys like count who drove, who flew, what that impact was, and then how did you offset that? Did you buy trees, or remind me? It was a little bit ago.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we teamed up with a company that helps plant trees to help offset that carbon footprint. So it's not just the carbon that we're producing at the event, but like you said, who's flying in, who's driving. We calculated those drive times in an attempt to kind of come up with a more wholesome carbon footprint, what we call like scope 1 and scope 2.
And planting those trees was also a gift that we gave to our speakers. And it wasn't about just talking about this at the swim school and doing it. We were really inspiring others why their sustainability efforts in their swim school make a difference, and how we can all make a difference. And we gave specific examples of how we do that, and also how it benefits them and the cost savings as well. So people were motivated to make some of these changes, like covering our pools at night, making sure that our lights are off when we're not operational in the day, there was many different examples where we used that we can inspire other swim school owners and other business people to make these efforts in their swim schools.
And we had, you know, you mentioned, Joey, earlier about private business owners coming together and running a conference. We had a lot of public operators like yourself that were there, and they kind of saw the initiatives that we're taking on. Mm-hmm. And I think that in the aquatic space, we do waste a lot of carbon.
Yeah.
And so simple things like covering your pool every night, or setting back your heaters, or putting your equipment on timers to be able to reduce that energy consumption, not only lowers our bills and helps us save money, but it helps reduce our carbon footprint. So it kind of helps everybody.
And I'll just add there as well is that this is a topic that's passionate with the teams in our swim school. Many of us in the aquatic industry, these are young professionals, and they want to see climate change, or they want to see sustainability efforts happening. And they're motivated by these actions that were taking place in our swim schools, because they're the next generation, and we want to leave our planet better than the one we're living in today. And the reality is, if we don't all make these changes, that's not going to happen. And this is a hot topic for our teams, and something that they're interested in. So why aren't we talking about it?
It really is a retention strategy for a lot of swim schools and a lot of aquatic programs, because they ask us, they're like, why do we have to cover the pool every night with a blanket? And we say, well, it's helping to reduce our carbon footprint. And they're like, we're covering this pool, and they're self-motivated. And so they want to work for organizations that they know are making a difference. And I think that's it's a competitive advantage, but it's also the right thing to be doing, right? So it helps the business owner, it helps the organization, and it helps the people that are working inside of the organization.
Two things I love about that. One, Justin, I don't know how you feel, but you get quite a collection of water bottles, blankets, and charging something or others as a speaker for speaker gifts. I loved the idea of the trees, so is that something that you would appreciate, speaking somewhere and knowing that they planted a bunch of trees as a thank you as a speaker?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's wonderful. And you kind of get to a certain level where you have all of those things and you don't need them. And it really just becomes just frippery. I mean, it's just superfluous stuff sometimes at that point. And I perked up when you mentioned the rubber ducks, because I was like, God, how many rubber ducks did I get over over the years? And I think when my son was younger, the bathtub was full of them, and now they're all in a landfill. They're all in a landfill somewhere.
I've learned that if you
because he just wanted to play with a plastic bucket or cup anyways.
I learned that if you drive a Jeep owners like put rubber ducks on each other. So I'm like, oh, now I have a purpose for some of these ducks.
Look, Justin, Joey, and I appreciate the fact that vendors that come to conferences, they want to have something to give.
Yeah.
To make that sale, or for somebody to bring something home, so they're reminded of the interaction. But what we've tried to do at this conference is make it all inclusive, so that the vendors are actually coming out to dinner, they're coming to lunch, they're being included in the extracurricular activities of the conference, so they can make those connections outside of the conference space. It's not just kind of the 9 till 4, but it's also the 4 till 9, that they're involved in those other activities and can continue to build those relationships. So it kind of reduces the need for the rubber duck, the water bottle, or the flyer, right?
And I love when you talk to about the generational thing, because anyone listening to this, if they're, in the Lifeguard Authority group community or any of the other ones that it might get shared in, like the struggle is real right now with this like 15 to 21-year-old generation about really like, I don't know if I'm getting old and out of touch, but I actively try real hard to, stay relevant. And, this is good, because when you're saying that, like a task that's not fun to do, like I think back to when I was part-time, if I had to cover the pool, I'd be like, oh, but the fact that they're buying into that and wanting to engage in that. And I think, this is something that if we incorporate more and tap into what's important to that generational more and find creative ways to integrate that into how we lead and how we recognize our team. And, I think that's good, right? Because we need some solutions for that. And if we can find solutions that also, make a global impact, through some of this research that, Justin was telling us, I think that's good, right? Because there's a social connection there and a buy-in there, and they're making a difference. So have you found that, like, you know, like the tone of your teams, you know, integrating this, it's been successful, or sometimes yes, sometimes no? How's that working?
I think for us in aquatics, the purpose is baked in.
Yeah.
I mean, teaching a child what to do when they fall into water is just as important as teaching them how to read and write. Everybody agrees with that. But when you can stack in and layer on top of that some of the principles of ESG, taking care of the environment, paying people a minimum wage or a living wage, and all the other social benefits that are around that, I think it makes the job a job that people love already. It just makes them even more engaged.
It's more meaningful.
Yeah.
It's impactful. And that's what young people want. They want meaningful connections.
We
And
need to
that's-
just listen to them, like lean in with it. So,
Yeah.
Justin, there was a quote I want to chat with you about and kind of help bring this together. And then, you know, Kerri, Tiernan, I'd love to hear about what we can expect this year from your experience. But first, let's chat about this quote. So I think it was Dr. Elizabeth. How do you say her last name?
Selwyn.
Selwyn. I'm terrible with these things. Everyone doesn't need to leave their field and convert to a climate practitioner, but everyone does need to figure out how their field might best contribute to protecting the climate and how the climate change we can't prevent will impact their field. And I noticed you had included this in your article. What does this quote speak to you, Justin, and how does this connect with this?
Yeah, I think for me, the reality is, you know, climate change is here. It's not that it's coming, and you can adapt or not. But if you don't adapt, then the consequences are dire. And even in every industry, something like the cruise industry, right, with more Arctic ice melting and waterways opening up, cruise ships are taking older people with more medical problems further from potential of rescue. And so search and rescue organizations have had to adapt to performing more rescues in more austere environments that are further away, down to training, you know, lifeguards and search and rescue crews to operate in more heat stress and, you know, in some of those environments. And we have to be able to adapt kind of to that response side, but then also where we're able to mitigate as an organization by holding a conference virtually instead of in person, or doing some of those other things that you all have mentioned, then we can respond, but then also act in the mitigation space within our organizations.
Love it.
I think too, Joey, the nice thing about our organizations is we teach young people, right?
Yeah,
we have young
that's what I was
people
gonna
that
say.
teach young people.
Mhm.
So we have an opportunity to inspire 4, 5, 6, 7-year-olds
Yeah.
to say we're making a difference, and this is it. We can do this. We can overcome this. It is a solvable problem. We just need to get buy-in, and we have a perfect audience to be able to do that with.
So what are we going to expect this year? I'm on your email list, so I see these drip of all these like speakers coming, and I'm going on a trip on a vacation, so I can't come, and it's driving me crazy. If you want to switch your date for me, I'd appreciate it, but I guess that's not happening. So what are we expecting this year from that lineup?
It's going to be pretty epic, and it's aim high, so we're aiming higher this year. That's our motto. We really have crafted a lot of opportunities for networking, which is excellent because we all want to network within our industry and learn best practices. So we've got dinner and drinks at the TIFF building at Malaparte. We've got some other great venues for dinner, but our speakers are phenomenal. We have crafted some incredible speakers that this is what they do for a living. So we're talking to people about culture, core values, leadership. The Ritz-Carlton is coming to do a workshop on customer service. We're talking about the importance of email marketing with Cassandra Britton. We've got Jack Armstrong speaking on the mastering leadership dynamics and cultivating success through culture, attitude, and relationship. Jack Armstrong is an incredible speaker himself, so I'm really pumped for that one.
He's the color commentator for the Raptors
on Sports.
Oh, cool.
Get that garbage out of here, that guy.
We've got some incredible leaders from Australia coming to speak to us. They work in the swim school industry, they're owners in the swim school industry, and they're going to be talking to us on these various topics as well. We've got roundtable discussions. We're really pumped for not only the high level speakers, but for the relationships and the networking that we're cultivating in our conferences. And I think that's a game changer where we can all come together and learn from each other.
Yeah, I applaud you guys for kind of finding out of the box kind of speakers too. I really connected with that. You know, and try to bring this all back together. Like, honestly, like, congratulations for, you know, leading by example with some of this carbon awareness with what you're doing. And like, you don't have to do this, you know, but you're choosing to do this. And I think it's great that you have a focus of leadership and people are coming to this environment and you are leading by example with some of this. For anyone watching this, you know, I'll put the links, you know, read Justin's article, Drowning in Climate Change. Is that the full title? Yeah, Drowning in Climate Change, you know, so that you can make that connection. And like, I think what you guys are doing, my hope from this video and when I was chatting with Justin is like, if other conferences can hear this, or if you're attending the conference, ask questions. What are we doing for this? Start being curious about it, because, you know, having planned conferences, we want to serve what the delegates want. And if we're expressing as an industry that we want to make a difference, we want to have an impact, then we will start seeing that reflected in the planning of that. You know, and I remember when we were in Ireland, this was one of the things that came up, Justin, was an idea like, how great would it be if conferences had kind of a climate change policy of some kind? And if this is where everyone's coming together and this is what they're experiencing, they're going to go back to their places, and similar to kind of how you guys have shown leadership, and start reflecting these values in how they work. You know, so the work you're doing, you know, Justin, the work that, you know, your team's doing there, that's, you know, making these connections for us and doing the research that we can anchor to something. And then, you know, with these examples, I think it can have a ripple effect and grow from there. And that's really what my hope was for, you know, us connecting, you know, with this conversation. So if you're listening, you know, take some action, ask some questions, you know, be a little bit of a disturber. You know, someone recently said, oh, you know, you're quite the disruptor. And I said, thank you, I've worked hard for that title. This is effort. So, you know, do that, because I think we have to step out of our comfort zone, you know, and do things to make a difference. So that's kind of where I'm at with that. Any last words from anyone else?
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And after you heard that speaker list, Joey, I'm surprised that you're not changing the dates of your vacation.
It's a wedding. It's a wedding. I'm so excited. But listen, I'm sending a team member. Also, there was a lot of people I knew from the municipal circuit that like were at the conference last year. So I always love going to conferences and connecting with people. That's, you know, one thing, like I get to see Justin sometimes, you know, whether I knew he was speaking somewhere or not, sometimes it's a pleasant surprise. I know we saw each other recently in Arizona again. So like connecting is a great way to do it. And it's cool that you have people from like Australia and other places coming too. So that's always more interesting to hear different perspectives from different environments. So thank you both for your time. Thank you for the work that you guys are doing. Thank you for making time today for us to have a quick chat. I will put any links to these organizations, you know, below. Everyone take a second, read it, connect with it, and comment. What do you think? Do you agree with us? Do you disagree with us? If you want to go on about ridiculous things, then, you know, do that somewhere else. But please comment and let us know what you think about this topic. So thank you so much. And I'll see you guys around.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Nice to see you.